and welcome to the Behavior Education Connection, the podcast that works to connect the world of behavior analysis and the world of education. We focus on topics important to behavior analysts who work in the public schools and those who support them. Join us and spend time gaining insights and ideas as our host talks with fellow behavior analysts as well as other experts in the field. Hello and welcome to the Behavior Education Connection. I am your host, Dr. Selena Layden, and I am excited to have rejoining me today for part two of this topic, Noel Woolard. Hi, Noel.
Hi, Selena. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. So in the last episode, we were talking about professional development and why behavior analysts have anything to do with professional development, basically. So today we're going to continue that topic and start talking about some of the effective components. But before we do, in case people weren't with us last time, can you just give us a brief introduction of you, if you don't mind?
Sure. My name is Noel Woolard, and I am a Technical Assistance Associate with the Autism Center for Excellence at VCU. And within that role, I'm able to partner with local school divisions to identify areas where they would like to kind of change their practice in terms of educating students with autism.
Great. And I know that you've been doing that a while, so I know you've been doing professional development activities for quite some time. So like I said, last time we talked a little bit about what professional development is and why would we do it. So today I want to get into the meat of what makes professional development effective. So what are those components that really make professional development stick and change behavior?
Well, that is a good question. But before I get to that, let me just kind of review the two different models of professional development that are in the literature. So the first is that traditional model of professional development, and that's kind of your sit and get types of presentations. It could also be conferences that are outside of the building. It could be individual teachers or administrators who are taking courses. That's kind of the traditional model. And then we have the reform model, which is where these 5 effective professional development components kind of fall into. So the reform model is really looking at professional development that maybe is happening more internally within your school building or within your division. And it's really focused on the specific needs of the individual teachers as well as the division. So I think about it as more individualized and just really matches what the division, the teacher, the school kind of needs at that moment in time.
Can you tell us a little bit about those components?
Absolutely. So again, there are 5 components. So the first one is one that as behavior analysts, we're going to be pretty familiar with. So that is opportunities for practice, feedback, and reflection. And so Darlene Hammond wrote a lot about this in terms of just outcomes for teachers. So this would be one way that we could kind of bridge that knowledge to implementation gap. So what are some of the ways that we as behavior analysts might be doing some of this? Well, we might be using some of our behavior skills training techniques in order to really allow for practice, allow for feedback, allow for reflection. And so that's certainly something that we're very familiar with, that we could embed within our coaching sessions, within our classrooms, within the PLCs that we have, and maybe even some small group work. So for me, I feel like we're actually using components of applied behavior analysis when we are doing that or meeting that first critical component of effective professional development.
So one of the things that I really like about the BST model is that we really are training to criterion, so to speak, right? We're training to mastery. We're not just saying, oh, this is how you do it. Okay, now you go back and figure out how you're actually going to make that work or how you're going to, or you got to try it one time. Okay, now go practice on your own. Because what we know is that when people practice something and they don't get feedback, then there's a danger that they're practicing it wrong and that
Correct.
then they're learning the behavior incorrectly. And we know it takes longer to correct incorrectly learned behavior than it does to teach it right the first time.
Right.
Uh,
And we don't want to spend our time doing that. And
no, absolutely not.
we want to spend our time being effective teachers and making sure that our teachers are effective teachers as well.
Well, and nothing's more frustrating for the adult learner than I spent all this time doing this and now you're telling me I did it wrong. I don't want to have to relearn this.
Very true.
So that's the first component. What's the next component?
So the second component is alignment with student achievement and instructional content. So as I kind of think about this component and I think about it through the lens of a behavior analyst, I'm trying to figure out, how best to analyze what teachers know, and also analyze what they need to know more about. And so as a behavior analyst, we can take this knowledge and we can make sure that our professional development is really matched to the teacher, to the school, to the building, to the division's initiatives that may be currently in place. And we're hoping that as we do this, it's going to, again, bridge that knowledge to implementation gap. And then we're going to have teachers who are effectively implementing evidence-based practices and strategies within their classroom.
Yeah, the analogy that comes in my head here is, we as behavior analysts find the function of a behavior and then we align the behavior plan with the function. And I think, well, this isn't necessarily functional assessment by any means. It is that alignment of this is our outcome, our desired outcome or our goal. So how are we going to get there? And what makes sense for how we're going to get there. We want students to be successful. Well, what does success look like? And then how do we get them there?
Exactly. And with the opportunities for practice, feedback, and reflection, that first component, as well as this alignment with student achievement, and as a second component, everything that we're doing is intentional. It's planful. It's not just happening by accident or just because. We're actually putting factors and variables in place so that things are intentionally planned, and hopefully the outcomes that we hope to receive or hope to get are going to be there.
So we have opportunities for practice, feedback, and reflection, and we have aligning student achievement with instructional content. What's next?
So the third component of effective professional development is collaboration. And so, when I was first looking at the literature and I looked at collaboration, I kind of thought in my mind first, collaborating with like teachers and administrators and just everybody being on the same page. But that's actually not how collaboration is defined in the professional development literature. Collaboration is defined as opportunities to kind of have learners or folks who are receiving the professional development to collaborate in the moment within those sessions. And so I kind of think back to the way that we run some of the continuing education credits through our organization, where you guys really, or the presenters really make sure that there are opportunities for behavior analysts to break out into small groups and actually have conversation and discussion and reflect on their own practice, but also learn how others are reflecting on their practice, in their different environments. So it's really about opportunities to collaborate within those professional development learning activities.
So part of what I hear you saying is kind of having models, right? So seeing how other people do the skill or seeing how other people think about the skill is kind of modeling that for you to then decide if you're going to do it that way or what you're going to do with that information, so to speak. But I'm with you because I also think that collaboration with other professionals is important. Mm-hmm. And as a behavior analyst who provides professional development, a lot of times we provide professional development on things like the functions of behavior, right? That makes sense. But we have a lot to offer for other content that we may not be as familiar with the content, but we know the method for professional development. Mm-hmm. And that's where collaborating with administrators, related service personnel, other educators, outside providers to say, okay, you're the content expert. I'm not pretending that I know your content as well as you. But I know how to deliver very effective professional development. And so that's where I think sometimes we can have a contribution as well, is to say, I have the really good methods to do this.
Mm-hmm. One of the interesting pieces of research that I found that was related to collaboration was that administrators who actually engage in professional development activities with their teachers have teachers who are more likely to implement those strategies in their classroom. So I think that's just a great example of one way that administrators can, partner with their teachers, and their teachers are more apt to actually try these strategies out in their classroom.
Well, and we've talked about in other episodes this idea that as a behavior analyst, we may not be able to just go in and say, hey, you're going to do this because it's the best thing you should do. But I think that's the other piece of professional development, and where this collaboration might come in is, yes, I'm providing professional development, but see me as a partner, see me as a collaborator. I want to work with you, and I have this knowledge, but my job isn't to say I have this knowledge and I'm the gatekeeper for it. My job is to say I have this knowledge and I want to help you have this knowledge.
Right. That's an excellent point. So are you ready to talk about the fourth component?
Yes. Yeah, we're getting there. We're 3 down, 2 more to go.
Okay. So this one is a word that behavior analyst, as a behavior analyst, we hear all the time, we use quite often, and that is the word duration. Okay. So in the professional development literature, duration is defined in 2 different ways. It's defined as the number of contact hours that an individual would have with that professional development material. And then it's also defined as the amount of time or the span of time that professional development activities kind of go along. So it could be the duration of a semester or an entire school year. What the research does tell us is that the best learning outcomes that we have in terms of implementation of these practices in the classroom would happen after about 15 to 80 hours of professional development. So kind of goes to say that maybe not that 1 hour session or that professional development session in a staff meeting is going to stick. If that's the only thing that we do, there really has to be some duration and some meat that actually goes along long term in order to make sure that these skills are implemented in the classroom.
And that definitely makes sense. I mean, right, you can't just try something once and then you've got it usually, right, unless it's a relatively simplistic skill. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. All right, 4 down. We got 1 more.
Okay, so the last element, I like this one an awful lot. And this is one of the fun things that I like to incorporate into my trainings, but it's called action-oriented professional development. And so that basically means that we're giving our participants who are in our professional development sessions opportunities to kind of do some hands-on activities, maybe to move around a little bit, just to do something that helps us retain some of the information that we're learning, but kind of shakes it up a little bit. It doesn't make it so boring and just so static, as we're sitting in one place. So kind of embedding some kind of movement or some hands-on activity and make and take into your sessions is one way to help teachers retain some of the information that they're learning.
Yeah, and I think the key to this is, and I'm with you, I think these are really important things to do. And we know from adult learning literature that we need to get people, they can't just sit for 3 hours and absorb all that information. I mean, I can't, I know most adults can't. But I think it's so important that those activities are so tied to the outcomes you're looking for. Mm-hmm. It's not just activity for sake of activity, but it's activity to demonstrate a skill, to practice a skill, to get feedback on the skill, and those kinds of things.
Agreed, 100%.
So we made it through the 5 components.
We did.
And just to review them really quickly, we have, so there's opportunities for practice, feedback, and reflection, alignment with student achievement and instructional content, collaboration, duration, and action-oriented professional development. And I really appreciate you kind of sharing these. I think they're really, really good launch board for people who are trying to figure out how to make professional development be effective. There is a lot of literature out there on professional development and providing effective professional development. It can be its own course of study if you want it to be. But I think this is a really good starting point. So I appreciate you sharing this information.
Absolutely.
As we wrap up today, is there anything else that you want to share?
I think it's really important for us as behavior analysts to realize that we have the tools and the skills and the knowledge to really help administrators and school divisions really bridge that knowledge to implementation gap. we always need to be thinking about kind of the end in mind and always be working with school divisions to develop goals that will be aligned with what we hope outcomes will be from professional development. We should always be looking at what teachers currently know. We never should forget that. We should always be looking at what teachers currently know and also what we need them to know in order to be more effective. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I really appreciate you allowing me to share information about professional development. I'm pretty passionate about it, as it is something that I get to do pretty much every day. So.
No, I really appreciate you joining me. This is a topic, like I said, that I spend a lot of my time researching and implementing things around. So thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate that and your knowledge and willingness to share on this topic. So Noel Woolard, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Selena.
And we will hopefully have our listeners join us next time.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Behavior Education Connection. Join us next time for another great conversation about behavior analysis in the schools. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. Sending out a special thanks to the Virginia Department of Education for supporting our work. We look forward to connecting with you all again soon.